everyone. Welcome to the Chanwow Podcast. Oh my goodness, it has been such a long time since I recorded a podcast episode. But if you're listening to this podcast on Spotify, I'd like to say thank you so much for your support. If you're interested, I also have the video version of all of my podcast episodes up on my YouTube channel. The topic of today's podcast is definitely related to the fact that I had just announced that I will be moving to South Korea. Woo! The reason I wanted to do a podcast episode is because initially it was supposed to be a YouTube video, but like a Q&A, but I realized that sometimes just like watching really long videos is hard for a lot of people. So I wanted this audio to be accessible to people who maybe want to just listen to it on like your Bluetooth speakers, your Google Home, your Alexa. What is that called? Alexa? Is Alexa like an iHome? Are iHomes still a thing? Anyways. Or you could listen to this in your car. Maybe you're going to be, on an airplane anytime soon, like myself. But yeah, so let's just get into it. Oh, sorry. In case you're new here, my name is Chantel. I'm the host. This is my podcast. And I talk about a lot of things related to travel. That's how my podcast started last year. That's the last time, you guys, that I made a podcast episode. How crazy. And it's the fact that I'm now making another podcast episode a year later talking about the same thing, like traveling and like Korea. Crazy. Some people were really curious about my move and asked me some questions, and I thought, let's just answer it here because it's really hard to just like answer everybody all the time, like to get 10 messages a day. By the way, I'm going to be name dropping some people because I just freaking love you guys. Anyways, the first question comes from Toby. Miss Toby, I love you so much. Girl, hit me up. I want to help you get your podcast started so that I can hear all of your fun adventures of traveling and lessons that you've learned. Toby asked, what inspired this? So what inspired your move? What inspired you wanting to go abroad? The short answer is I've always wanted to do this. It's definitely from the influence of my parents, my teachers and coaches in school, and then university, and kind of just like my experience of traveling abroad for a semester. So I will try to explain the long version, not so long. The thing about this podcast that I would like to incorporate is the fact that I come from the experience of being a second generation like Filipino in Canada, and I find there's a lot of people who don't really share their experiences, but there's people who are very curious about the experience because a lot of like my cousins who are a lot older who moved here at a later age, or some of my friends who've moved here when they were in their teens, they can't really relate to myself because I was born and raised in Canada. But what I find beautiful is there's a completely unique experience of being like a child of an immigrant, and particularly Filipino immigrant. And so it's all related, but basically it's quite common for a lot of Filipino immigrants to move to a different country before they move to Canada or North America to settle. It's kind of like a dream for a lot of Filipinos to live in North America, whether it is Canada or the States. So my mom actually lived in Malaysia before she moved here to Canada. And my mom moved to Malaysia when she was in her early 20s. And a lot of my aunties and a lot of my uncles have done the same. And not aunties and uncles who are like strictly my parents' siblings, but just like family friends. It's really funny because she didn't know this existed, but you know how on Google Maps you can put the little man on the map and you can see like the street view? I showed it to her and she was like blown away by it because she showed me where she used to live, and then she showed me the like street views of like where her favorite street food carts were. And then she showed me the university or like the little parks that she used to go to on her days off. I think that's just like so cool. My dad was in the Philippine Army. And so since a young age, he joined the army when he was like around 18. He was based in different places around the Philippines. And although we are one as Filipinos, if you're Filipino, you know that there's completely a difference between somebody who's Tagalog from Manila, somebody who's Ilocano, somebody who's Bisaya, somebody who's Bicolano, like somebody who's Cebuano, you know what I mean? Like, and then my mom, she's Ibanag. It's so different. Like the Philippines has such a vast variety of cultures, traditions, dialects, and all that stuff. So my dad, when he was based in those different places, he learned so much about different Filipinos. And it's like weird to say, but like I'm sure a lot of people with ethnic background, like you kind of can relate to this. So when I have that influence of my parents always talking about traveling and living elsewhere and learning about different people, of course it stuck with me. And so that's definitely my parents' influence. The second one is my teachers and coaches. So what inspired me to go to teach in Korea is ever since I was in school, like whether it was junior high or high school, I always was involved with school, with clubs, with sports. I was so active in the classroom, and most of my friends, classmates know that about me. So I would always be helpful with my coaches and teachers. And because I was so open and like I would talk to them about certain things, they'd always be like, Shan, like, why don't you teach? We could totally help you with your job placement. We can help you with your student teaching placement. And I really considered it for the longest time. I kind of always wanted to be a teacher, but then I don't know what happened. I think it was like at the time, my parents were like, a lot of people who are graduating in education aren't getting jobs right now. And I think that was because Edmonton wasn't growing as fast as it has been recently. So like they weren't opening up new schools. Like people who were in their teacher positions were there for years, you know, until they retire, of course, right? So I was kind of like, crap, what else can I go into? And that's how I found communications and broadcasting. Like it's definitely about helping others, talking a lot during the entire day. And so that's what kind of inspired me to teach, because I was kind of like, I regret that I didn't do my undergrad in teaching and education. And so I was like, this is definitely an opportunity to do that. What's crazy is I'm going to be teaching elementary kids. And it's not just teaching English. It's part of like the government's program to like introduce children to people from other countries. It's called like a cross-cultural communication program. It's called a like cultural exchange program that the government has. That's why they allow teachers to like come to their country and teach like whatever it is. Like there's even programs here in Canada like that. But I remember my grade 5 teacher, I don't know if any of my classmates who know who she is, Mrs. Stewart. I don't know if Mrs. Stewart she's probably never going to watch this or doesn't even know about this, but her son was also a teacher and he taught in Japan. And when he was done his 1 year, I think he was there for a couple of years actually. When he was done his teaching contract there, he came back to Canada and he came to our grade 5 classroom and he shared with us his experiences. He shared with us how to write our names in Japanese. He showed us like pictures, like he had like a slideshow. He showed us how to make origami. He brought some Japanese food, and that experience of seeing another culture like really stuck with me. And it's crazy because I remember that since grade 5. And now that I think about it, I'm going to be going to Korea to do that to another child. You know, like to really influence them, to introduce them to another person from another country. It's going to be so weird because even when I was doing a volunteer library program for kids when I was there for my semester in Korea, they were so funny because they were like, why are you Asian, but you're from Canada? Like, why are you Filipino, but you're Canadian? And yeah, it was just so funny. It's, it's exposing kids to people who are not like them. And that's what I'm going to be doing in Korea. So really, it's that experience of my teachers always encouraging me to be a teacher, and the experience that I had like while I was a kid in elementary that kind of inspired me to do this for another kid. And then the third is my semester abroad in Korea, but also like university. So it's really funny because people are always like, Shan, you loved Korea so much that you want to go back, eh? And it's true, but it's not true. It's kind of crazy that like everything that I've been making, whether it's my podcast, my YouTube, like vlog style videos, but also the tutorial type of videos, and then also my reaction videos, it's all related to Korea, which is like, it's like really funny because this is the thing. When I went abroad to Korea, I was still a little bit shy. Like it was my first time going abroad by myself studying. And so I didn't know anything about the language, the culture, the food, like Korean dramas, like film, media, or like Korean music. And honestly, I was a little bit scared to kind of venture outside of like my dorm and university area, unless I went with a friend, especially like a friend who would know Korean. And so I felt like during my semester there, I still didn't really have the confidence to like go out and explore things by myself. I didn't do that until the end of my semester. And so I was like, you know what? If this opportunity to go teach in Korea is what's happening, I might as well do it, because my classmates who I met in 2019, they're still there for their degree. They're in their last year. And I was like, this is the perfect opportunity to just go at this time. But basically, after my semester, like Korea literally blew my mind. It was so unexpected because, like I said, I knew nothing about the country before I went. And then I started to like look into like what I could do for a job post grad, like I was in my last year when I went to Korea, and I obviously have to think about what kind of jobs do I want to do? Like what options are there for me in professional communications? But regardless, I always had a plan to travel, whether it was to just travel and like just for fun, explore the world, figure out who I am as a person, or if it was to like find a job abroad or to study again abroad. And so I had a class in university, and it was an intercultural communications class, and I loved it. I was like, wow, this is honestly something that I could go into in the future for a profession. And I don't know if it was the professor, I don't know if it was the material, but I loved having conversations with my classmates. Like I loved activities talking about cultural communications. I loved writing. It's so weird. I loved writing essays and like tests. I loved everything that we did in that class. And I was like, okay, like maybe I should look into this a little bit more. So with my experience with studying abroad and then me really liking this intercultural communications class, I just did research on the internet, and I found the JET program, which I highly considered. That's another story. I actually did get that opportunity to go to Japan, but because of the pandemic, it didn't happen. And so it's still a little bit hard now. So I found out that it's a little bit easier to go to Korea right now. So that's why I'm going to Korea. Like honestly, it was just by chance. And so those three things are like the main things that inspired me to go to Korea. That is kind of the long answer. But it's like the true answer, okay? So there was other questions that were asked on my Instagram. I put out like submission thing, and somebody asked, actually I'm gonna name drop this person. Thank you, Natalja, for always watching my videos and telling me that you do, because it's crazy. There's people who like say, oh, like great job, Shan, like whatever, and like they're like, we'll always support you, but then they actually don't really watch my videos or they don't share my stuff. So I just want to say thanks, Natalja, because she posts my stuff and she tells me that she watches my stuff, and then she tells other people to watch my stuff. So thanks, Natalja. She asked, what season or month do you recommend visiting Korea? Ooh, that's really hard, honestly, because it depends on kind of like what you want to experience when you're there. The summertime is really hot. Like, actually, it gets really hot. But in the summer, there's always like a lot of music festivals. In general, though, there's a lot to do in Korea, like all the time. That's actually one thing that I loved about Korea. In the fall, it's like so pretty. In the winter, there's actually like some of the best food I hear, like some of the best food, because like sometimes there's specific foods that only get not like made, but you see a little bit more of them. They're like a specialized thing in the winter, especially street food. So there's that. And then in the spring, I think it's like March to May, I'm pretty sure, is when the cherry blossoms bloom, and it's so pretty to get photos, and like it's starting to get warm, spring's happening, like the December blues are gone, or the winter blues are gone. Honestly, people always say that they actually love spring the most, but yeah. She also asked, share some hidden gems. I definitely will share some hidden gems on my vlogs that I'll be doing. Somebody asked, how long do you plan on living there? So my contract is actually only 1 year. There's a possibility to extend though, but I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe I'll extend. Maybe I'll go to a different country. Maybe I'll come home right after. I don't know. I'm kind of just riding the wave, but for sure I will be there for a year. Another person asked, is it hard to move to Korea in terms of adjusting? So this is technically going to be my second time adjusting, because I do have experience with adjusting because I was there for my semester abroad, but this is going to be definitely a little bit different in terms of the fact that I'm going to be settling there. I'm going to be making a life for myself, a routine over there. So if you are not really used to the city life, and also if it's your first time going abroad, and also if you don't know the language, I definitely think it's really hard to adjust. But everybody is going to go through culture shock when they move somewhere else, especially if it's their first time. But even if it's not your first time, I think I'm still going to get a level of culture shock. But the thing is, I think it's because I know that I want to be there, and I'm like excited to be there, and it's kind of like finally. I think I will let you know. Maybe I'll do another podcast episode update or a video. And then I have another question. Well, not question. It's from Jamie. Hi, Jamie. She said, when can I visit you? Girl, you can visit me anytime. Honestly, if anybody from back home wants to visit, please let me know. I could definitely bring you guys around. I'll take some time off work to bring you around. And of course, if I'm living there, I know the best places to go. Sadie said, that's cute. Sadie, shut up. Yes, it is cute that I'm moving abroad to Korea, Sadie. The heck. And then at the Tracy, can you take me with you so we can look for our oppas? Oh my gosh, at the Tracy, you're so funny. I'm pretty sure she's referring to BTS, but yes, Ate Tracy, I will sneak you in my luggage, but at the same time, I'm just joking. Just come visit me. I'm gonna be there for a year. It's gonna be amazing. Save up. Somebody asked, are you scared to move alone? Oh, that's a really good question. Honestly, not really. I got a taste of what it's like to live alone in another country from my semester abroad, and I really liked it. It really helped with my individual growth as a person, and it opened my eyes to a lot of things that some people that I never would have thought of. But for me, traveling really taught me what I liked and didn't like about myself and the way I thought. And it helped me like want to change. And so that's why I'm not really scared to move abroad by myself. Okay, and the next question is, do you feel bad for leaving your friends and family at home? Yes and no. I definitely think I will miss them. But a lot of them do want to come visit me, and I'm hoping that they do. Like, please guys, save up so you can come visit me, because it's going to be so fun. I'll bring you guys around and show you the best time. But I'm an adult, and I feel like it's time for me to live my life. Think about this. The pandemic started when I was 23, and now I'm 26. So during that entire time, I definitely felt like my life was being wasted. I'm not going to lie to you. And as much as people say that, like, timelines are not important. I'm that type of person too. As much as I learned so much and explored with YouTube and I had such a great time, I still felt like my potential wasn't being accessed. Does that make sense? I don't know. And a friend of mine told me, like, Shan, the world needs to see you. And like that just warms my heart, you know? Like, I freaking love all the people here, like my friends and my family. But at the same time, it's time for me to go out and adventure myself. And as corny as that sounds, not a lot of people get that opportunity to do that. And so I'm so grateful that I freaking work my butt off and I saved up and I applied for this and it's happening. It's happening. The reality is though, you guys, I actually have no idea what the heck I'm doing with my life. I'm just looking for the opportunities and just taking them with what I think is interesting and something that I think will teach me stuff. So yeah, I don't know why traveling was always one of those things that I've kind of just always wanted to do. And like, listen, this job that I'm doing, as much as it's like good paying and it's like, you know, like a 9 to 5, it's not something that like I want to do for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? It's not something permanent. It's not something stable. And I'm okay with that. Let's be honest, what I'm doing is not the norm for a Filipino. Everybody that I know is either in healthcare or an accountant or like an engineer. No, yeah, that's pretty much every job that I know my friends and family who are Filipino are doing. So, I just wanted to remind people that like you don't have to have it figured out. You actually don't. I just want to have a job where I can make enough money that I can live and save up, but still explore. You know what I mean? And hopefully I answered all the questions that you guys have. If you have more, please let me know. I will probably continue this podcast in Korea in my room. Like this podcast is literally recorded in my room. So maybe I'll do it in my room in Korea now. I'll close off the podcast here. Thank you for listening if you are from back home. But if you're not, I'm hoping, I don't know, this will inspire you in some sort of way. I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't really prepare that much for this podcast. It's going to probably take me a while to edit this and figure out how to put it on the internet, like how to put it on these audio platforms and upload it on Spotify. But thank you for your interest. Thank you for listening if you have come all the way to the end with me. And if you think to yourself, oh my gosh, I could never do what Shan's doing, let me tell you, yes, you can. Yes, you can. This podcast is actually going to be on my reaction video channel. But for those of you who do know, I'm trying to figure out how I can like transfer everything to a different channel that's specifically related to like my travel experiences. Just be on the lookout for podcast episodes to be posted on there now instead of the original channel that turned into the reaction channel during the pandemic. So that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you guys as always. I love you guys.